We're here to talk about some common questions and known issues in the new payroll in version 24. Welcome to everyone. We hope you'll find this event helpful. We appreciate everybody taking the time to attend today. We're hoping that this will answer some of the questions that you're having and perhaps help you prevent you from having to contact or reach out and call us through support. If we were to call you, it would take us quite some time to be able to get back to you, as some of you are probably experiencing, okay? Where there's resources available online, we're going to talk about that here in a bit. We are recording today's event. We are doing the same or hosting a same event, live event, on the very last Tuesday of the month here. I believe that's like the 31st, that's covering this topic again. So if you've not installed and converted from into 24 and converted your payroll, you may want to hold off and attend that particular event. Either way, we hope you'll find it helpful. There are other webinar events that are out on our Resource Center page. So if we go back to churchwindows.com, I just want to point this out. Some of you may have gotten this in the email, but if we go to our website and we go here under training options, free training webinars, view and register, you'll see we've got one on 1099s, producing 1099s in the new payroll and in accounting in the new version 24. We've got W-2 forms the following Tuesday, January 25th. And then the following last Tuesday of the month, again, common questions and known issues again, maybe with some of these same topics, maybe with new stuff. But you're welcome to attend and join any of those particular events, okay? Also, while we're here, under customer support and resource center page, we are making as much information available about this, whether it's the videos from last year that I did, or whether we've got known issues or bugs. We're trying to get as much of this information out here on the website as we possibly can. Okay, so we're here to try to help. But if you cannot get a call back or a return response from a support technician in a timely manner, please check the Resource Center page or our website for updates or any known issues that we are able to get out there and provide information for you. Okay, so let's dive into payroll. If you have questions, please type those into the chat portion of the webinar of the Demio control panel. I've got several folks here answering questions for us today. First and foremost on that, if you're having specific data issues, most likely this event's not going to be able to answer those questions. This is about stuff that many users are commonly seeing on this. We may still need to contact or speak with you on the phone if you're having a particular issue regarding something in your particular data itself, okay? But we will absolutely try our level best. Let's go ahead and minimize the website and let's look at our home page here for Church Windows on version 24. Notice here that we've got in our version 24.21.1. That is the patched version or the latest version that we have or we are releasing now. You're going to be receiving an email with the 22.1 installer here sometime this afternoon. That is going to fix many of the bugs that we found in this version in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the subsequent release here, okay? Folks, I cannot stress enough, whatever issues you're having, whether it's with using the software, whether it's converting the program, in any way, shape, or form, if you're having issues, please, please, please install this patch, this update. So 24.22.1 may just fix issues that you have, all right? If you're still experiencing issues after that, then by all means, please reach out to us. But there's been some problems with this that we have now done our level best to try to fix in this update, okay? So please, please install that update. Whether you've installed 24 or not, or you have, or you've tried, or your conversion has failed, install the patch and try the conversion again. See if that fixes that and allows that to complete. We have written code in there that's going to allow that conversion to occur better for folks that have had problems with that, okay? Okay, so first thing, install the SR1 update or install the SR 24.22.1 installer. You can do that from your original 24.22.0 email, or you'll get an email from us later today about that. Okay? All right. So please enter those questions in the chat portion of that. The folks answering questions will do their best. They'll try to feed me questions that they're seeing a lot of here, and I'll try to see what I can't do to get those answered. Let's dive into payroll here, okay? So when we open payroll, we notice here we're getting some dialog boxes. I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about each of these independently, okay? First of all, we're getting a message about their checks waiting to print, open print checks. I can click no on that. Doesn't prevent me from doing anything. It's just a dialog box. Also, it's talking about some expiring PTO here. Again, I can click OK on that until I deal with it. Every time I open payroll, I'm going to be getting these prompts, okay? So you can just click OK through these or no, and you can come back and deal with them later, okay? We're going to come back to that in a little more detail here later on. As a technician who's been supporting this software, not only during this particular challenging time for all of us, you and me both, all of us, but also having been used the software for a number of years, here's my best bit of advice for you about this. Explore this, okay? Dive in, play, calculate payroll. Go and use the new tax reporting functions in it. You've got to learn how to use it. It's 90%. It does all the exact same stuff that your payroll, old payroll in the separate program used to do before. It is just doing a little different things, look a little different, and we've added in some new features and enhancements in it, okay? But you're not going to become familiar with it if you're, trepid about diving in and playing, okay? Try calculating a payroll. If you post it and it's wrong, just void it. You can go up to payroll up here in the upper left, go right across to void individual pay, or if you're direct deposit, employees, you can go to direct deposit and void EFT pays, okay? So all of this stuff was in the old version as well, but don't be afraid of diving in because it's the only way you're going to become comfortable with it, all right? There's nothing that cannot be undone here if there's a problem or a mistake that you made with it, okay? If you can break this, we need to know how you did it, and we need to hear from you with regards to that, okay? But again, please install 24.22.1 patch or update first, because if you don't, then my developers are going to say, hey, they need to install 24.22.1. Then if the problem still persists, then we'll look into it further, okay? But you can recalculate payroll, you can void checks, play with the new Aatrix interface under reports here in tax reports, okay? Only way we're going to be talking about or have other webinars on the new tax form creation over the course of the next couple weeks. We've got one out there that I did from, I think, in December on the 941. But we're going to continue to do these because, you're getting, at the end of the month, these forms are due, W-2s are due and what have you, and 1099s. And so we want to make sure you've got what you need to get those prepared adequately, okay? SR1 is now available with numerous bug fixes. It also installs the 2023 federal tax tables, which actually may reduce federal withholding for your employees slightly, okay? So if you've calculated them with them now, that's probably over withheld a little bit. No big deal. They would be hardly even noticeable for them if they do, a few cents to a couple dollars maybe. But, they'll either get it back in their next year's tax refund or what have you, but it should be negligible at best, okay? But please install this update as soon as possible, okay? Again, if you've not installed version 24 and or converted, install the SR1 before converting, okay? Also, do not print the 2022 W-2 forms until the SR1 is installed. There were issues with that in the original version of the software, okay? So the SR1 fixes those. So make sure to get the SR1 before printing and then subsequently distributing or sending in or filing your 22 W-2s, okay? Really important. We don't want you to submit bad information to the government and generate and have create problems for you, okay? This is probably one of the most important things to be aware of that we've gotten a lot of support calls about is there is no end-of-year procedure in the payroll, in the new version 24 payroll, folks. You literally just go into payroll, calculate payroll, and then you enter the pay date, settlement date, pay period started, pay period ended, and just process your pay. It's that simple, okay? There's nothing that separates This is similar to donations in this respect. It's like donations in that payroll is date driven. So everywhere you go, you're going to be required to either enter a date or a range of dates, whether you're running reports or calculating adjustment or anything. So just look for dates, but there's nothing that separates the one payroll year from the next other than the date range that you enter on that report or wherever you are. Okay. I'm going to come back to this message too here in a little bit. Okay. This is probably something that we also want to make sure that folks are aware of, is that while we've really tried our best to convert the data from your old payroll system, conversions of this level and magnitude are not perfect oftentimes. And so there may be something that you'll need to reset up again. Okay. Notably, say custom deductions or allowances that maybe you had in the old payroll may not have converted over, and you may simply need to go into data setup right up here to allowances, create your custom allowances, or go up to deductions at the top and set up some of your custom deductions. Okay. So again, just, there may be just a little bit of work that has to be redone again in here. And one of the things why this is important is because the old payroll dealt with some of those things more or less well than the new payroll will. And one of the things that we've added in this new version is this feature at the top here called miscellaneous tax. Okay, that's just one example of where the old payroll didn't have a miscellaneous tax function. The new payroll does have a miscellaneous tax function. Many states are taking on these new types of taxes, which are not, technically categorized as either local taxes or state taxes per se. They're literally, as described, miscellaneous taxes. Common examples would be, folks in Pennsylvania with their LST tax, or I think other states that have now implemented those might be Connecticut or Washington State. Those are just some ones that come to mind for me, okay, on this. So this miscellaneous tax is a brand new feature in version 24 and is probably going to be better suited for maybe some of those things that may not have been dealt with too terribly well in the old payroll program, okay? That's just one example. But we just have to prepare you for the notion that there may be just a little bit of work that has to be done in order to get the new payroll set up to do exactly what it is you're needing and wanting it to do, okay? Excuse me. This is one of the reasons why we wrote this payroll software, okay? The old payroll wasn't doing what users needed and wanted it to do, okay? And the new payroll now is allowing us and you the ability to be able to do things that simply you couldn't do in the old payroll software, payroll program, okay? When all is said and done, when you're done and you've got everything in here, I'm gonna minimize this. Sorry, let me go back here. I meant to minimize my church windows. This payroll icon in the upper left corner, you're going to wind up deleting that eventually. You're not going to use the old payroll. Folks, we are not supporting payroll, the old separate program, any longer. I think the most you can do is go back in there and print your, say, Q4 941 form for 2022 if you wish. But there's no tax tables in there. There's no W-2s in there for 2022. You can't calculate payroll in that. It's all in the new version, okay? So at some point, you're going to have ultimately need to delete that shortcut to get rid of that, so you're not using it anymore. I've been asked to clarify, what's the difference between SR1 and 2422.1? They are the same thing, folks, okay? So when I go back to my home screen for Church Windows here, we see 24.22.1. If you've already installed it, yours are not the patch, but if you've just installed the original base version, it'll show 2422.0. So the 1 tells us that it's we've installed the first patch or update for this version, okay? So I hope that offers some clarity with regards to that. All right, let me take a look at my notes here real quick. Yeah, new features definitely in here, okay? So the ability to be able to, split direct deposit over 2 accounts now. Before the old payroll only allowed you to do 1. You've got the miscellaneous tax function in the software. You've got, new features in the employee contractor file where everything occurs there with regards to linking to accounting. We're going to come back to a little more of that when we talk about some of these issues and problems that we're having, that we're getting common support calls about, okay? So the next thing is what we've kind of been dealing with when we're logging into the software here, when we've been opening the payroll software, okay? It's important to understand that some of the things that you're seeing on the screen are not errors, folks. They're not bugs or errors. They're dialog boxes. They're messages. They're informational. They're telling you that there's something you need to deal with, okay? And so when we go close out and relog back into payroll, examples of these are these messages that we're seeing right here, okay? So when we say that says, are there checks waiting to print, as I said earlier, you're going to continue to see these pop up until you deal with them. And it's fine if you're okay with what they represent. So you don't have to do anything to clear them out. I mean, frankly, for me personally, I think they probably start annoying me after a minute. So I probably want to deal with it. So if we click yes on that, I'm going to click yes. And we notice here, it opens up our check printing window and it says check runs. And if I click the down arrow, looky here, I've got several check runs from previous payroll years that the new version of 24 has done a better job of checking and finding. The old payroll software didn't warn you about things like this. So you may see check runs from previous payroll years that the old payroll that was in the Access database did not handle. The new payroll does. So the question is, what do you do to clear these out? That's a very good question. Well, first of all, what we can say with complete certainty is that they would not have been transferred into accounting. Let's talk about that initially. Can't transfer payroll into accounting. That's even true in the current new version of it now as well, is if the payroll is posted but not assigned check numbers or stubs aren't printed for direct deposit employees, it will not permit us to transfer that pay into accounting. So what I know with complete certainty is these particular 4 pay dates were never, and simply it was impossible for them to have been transferred into accounting because the software requires that. So what I typically recommend on my support calls is just clear them out. Assign a dummy check number to it. I mean, you can go back and look at it if you want, but frankly, if it's not been an issue up to this point, it's probably more important that you just clear it out, okay? So we would choose, say, February 1st, 2012, go to next. I've got a handful of my employees here. I would simply probably just type in a dummy check number and simply go to next. Not even going to print the checks. Going to go to next. Then I'm going to simply do mark as printed and simply click next. And it says, would you like to print the next check run? So see, it's already trying to help speed up the process for me. So if I click yes, it'll go back to that first screen where it requires that I choose the next pay date that I'm working with or check date that I'm working with. Or if I say no, it'll just say finish, and it'll take me back to my main church window screen or payroll screen, okay? Doesn't mean it's going to get rid of that message. If I close out a payroll and relaunch it again, it's going to come up again with the same window. So it might be just better for you to go in and say yes and just deal with them all, okay? And it even tells you the pay type that it was for them, the pay date and the pay type. Checking account is unknown, folks, here because we're not in that accounting year. Because the accounting years are separate, the current payroll doesn't know what the current checking account was back in 18 or 21 per se. I'd have to actually go back into that year and look at that, okay? So you just, again, do the same thing. Choose the pay date, click next, enter a dummy check number of your choice, and click next, next, mark as printed, click next, and again, you can go back and do the same thing. So we're just going to say, well, let's go ahead and clear them out. Why not? It won't take much time. Same thing. Probably even pop up and tell me that the check's already been used. It did not. So same thing. Checks mark as printed. Next. Click yes. It finally brings up my last pay date in this list. Here I choose that. Go to next. And next again. And mark as printed. And next. And I've dealt with that. Those are now done. And notice here it even shows the date, what those were with the check numbers that I'd entered and what have you, and click finish. And I'm now back to my main screen. Now when I close out a payroll and relaunch it again, I don't get that message There are no checks waiting to print. Okay? As my notes indicate, could be older checks, just need to assign a check number to clear out. It is that simple. Don't overthink it. Next, expiring PTO. Lots and lots of folks are getting this, okay? So we notice here, it says we've got this PTO listed below have either just ended or will end soon. What would you like to do? Seen with that other payroll, the printing checks, until you respond to this, folks, it's going to continue to pop up in perpetuity, okay? So you have options. You can copy to next time period, we can edit it, or we can simply check don't show again. But you do have the ability now in the software to be able to set periods of time for which PTO, paid time off, or whatever the pay label is it can be set for and tracked for. Okay. Most folks in this case, until you're kind of familiar with it, what I've suggested is just check do not show again and click OK. Okay. But if you don't, you can do copy to next time period, copy all to next time period. And that would really be important if you have multiple employees that are in here, or the one that probably folks are probably really interested in seeing is what if I click edit? So if I click edit and it's not doing anything, I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to have somebody look at that. There you go. We found something new today. So we're just going to do the do not show again, don't show again, and click OK. Now when I close out and log back in, I don't get either the print checks to print message, nor do I get the expiring PTO. Okay? None of this stuff, folks, prevents you from continuing to go in and calculate payroll, okay, or to print your tax documents. This is just dialog boxes, informational screens that are here to help you. I spoke with somebody on a support call, I think a couple days ago, who said, oh, well, we never print checks. We do a bank draft or a bank bill pay function for our net pay amounts. We print the stubs. We don't transfer it into accounting. And so they had all of their history of checks were there. So I said, well, unless you decide you want to go in and clear them out, assigning dummy check numbers, but if you're not transferring it into accounting, it's of no consequence. Just click OK through the or no through the message. They'll just get it every time. It's one additional it's just one additional mouse click that you have to click in order to get through it to the home screen for payroll. Okay. Okay, so unposted payroll calculation. We saw this when we did the payroll. Calculate payroll is when we open this, many of you might be seeing this unposted calculation box. So look at the year. So in this case, notice here, it says November 20th of 2014, 8 years ago, folks. This is payroll that was started and then saved but never finished. Never got posted, no checks were printed, nothing was transferred into accounting. You can either edit and post this calculation, unlikely. Certainly not for me, I'm not going to do that. Most commonly, we're just going to discard. Important to understand that there's nothing in the data here. This was just something that was entered under somebody's login, a password for payroll that was saved and never finished. So there's nothing that it's going to delete from the database whatsoever. No W-2s, no tax documents are changing. The software sees something that it goes, hey, they may want to keep this and work with this. But if you pay attention to the date, many times you're just going to discard this calculation, and that's what we're going to say here. So we're going to click discard. We're not going to see that message again. Okay. If I now go back to calculate payroll, it now just takes me into my calculate payroll screen. All right. So here, let's go ahead and go through a tax or a payroll calculation. Start one real quick because this is what's going to generate the next message that we're going to now be dealing with. So if I go to next, and if I choose everybody, should be coming up here, I think. Give me a second. I'm sorry. I thought I had this, and I thought it happened during this pop process. It was not. Basically, what may occur is, I think we might have changed to how it's handled in the SR1 version here. If I attempt to process some tax documents, it's going to pop up and warn me that I've got to fix a payroll, the local taxes for my employees, because there's missing information with regards to those. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I completely neglected to mention this at the beginning of the event. There are handouts on today's event as well. Sorry, there's just a lot going on. So if you go to the handouts tab of the Demio control panel, you're going to see a lot, like 6 documents out there. These are out on our Resource Center page. We've just basically included them here so you have access through them here, but you can find them out there as well. But one of them, I think, does cover this local tax issue. All right, if we go into, say, data setup here in the upper left, right over here to the top center, the little cute little trees icon, and we click on that, what it's referring to here is on that message, when you get that, you know what, let's just calculate a payroll. I think it still generates that when we do that. I just need to process it completely, I think. Oh, it's the reports. I goofed up. Sorry, folks. Should have unchecked reports. My fault. Final report. Close that. Next. Creating EFT file. Printing checks. No, this wasn't it. We must have fixed it or changed it. It's okay. We're not going to continue to beat our head against the wall on this. Well, but that's good, because this will help us with one of the final topics here we're coming up to. In either case, when we go to data setup, local tax, we click on a local tax, you go to the edit button right here in the upper left. What it's talking about, this right here is this menu to the right of state where it says tax. So if this is Cincinnati, I have to type in Cincinnati, and I have to choose the appropriate local tax for Aatrix to know what local district or area or school district that is. Once I've chosen it, you simply click finish, or it takes you to the next window, back to the same window, or whatever it is. But it depends on whether it's really a local school district tax, yes or no. From there, so here we go in and we type in Columbus. So notice here I've got several. So I'm going to do Columbus City, click finish, Gahanna, edit. So see, once I've taken care of these, I'm not going to have, the software is going to know, and this one I think does pop up with, yeah, so here it says in which tax authority is this paid, city, county, or other. I think it's city. It's a flat rate tax. Yep, next, and then finish. Okay, it's that simple. All right, so again, if you're getting that message about your local taxes are not set up correctly, you've got to go in here. This is how you go in and fix that. Okay. Those, folks, are the real 4 big things that folks have really been kind of dealing with, that they've been really unclear about and made them fearful to proceed. Okay, the local tax issue is big. Local tax problem is big because it won't allow you to complete certain portions or features in the software without it being fixed. Okay, like I said, tax documentation is notably the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so fix those at that local tax screen. The message won't come up. Everything will be golden. When you add local taxes, if I click add right here, it opens up the same window. Just be sure to choose the appropriate tax from that menu, and click next and finish, and that's good. You're all set on that. Okay, let's see. Okay, common support call that we're getting is for folks is they're calling us going, my payroll isn't transferred into accounting. That's a big common question we're getting, all right? And there's several reasons why payroll may not have been converted into accounting, okay? The one that really kind of is the one that I've seen most, having done as many support calls as I have here since this release, is the check numbers were not properly assigned, okay? So if I do first run checks, here's my payroll checks that I've calculated for, 112. All right. I can't get into this will not allow me to transfer 112 to 2023 until I assign those checks. Print those checks or assign those check numbers. If I go to transfer to accounting, it's not here. There's nothing here for 23. All right. So I would have to go into print checks, print those, assign those check numbers, and then that would permit me to do that. Okay. So if we come in here and we do this, and we click next, we go to next, I've mentioned this on my support calls simply because it's one of the big changes in the payroll calculation process. After entering the starting check number, clicking next does not open up the preview of the checks. You must click this print checks button down here in the bottom right corner. Okay? I've got a lot of support calls that have said I click next and my check numbers are assigned, but I never got the check printing screen to print my check stock. If I click print checks here now, notice it opens it up and allows me to print to my physical check stock. When I'm done with that, I've printed that in the upper left. I close out. Now I go next and it prompts me, did the checks print correctly? Okay. Now I can click finish, and it still didn't open up my transfer to accounting. Okay. So at this window, we notice a couple things here. First of all, my year. Well, looky here. No year for 2023. So if my accounting year for 2023 is not open, of course, payroll's not going to permit me to transfer accounting information to an accounting year that I do not have open. So again, reason number 2 why payroll would not be permitted to transfer into accounting. The other reason, and this is one that is new in the software, is we have this button down here at the bottom labeled Mark as Do Not Transfer. Just maybe somebody clicked, chose the date, clicked Mark as Do Not Transfer by mistake. If you need to, you can always go back to the Reactivate Do Not Transfer. This is similar in donations in this respect. Should bring up any of the pays that were inactive or just marked as Do Not Transfer by mistake, and allow you to uncheck that and transfer it seamlessly into accounting. Okay? Finally, if you've checked all of those things, so you know what, let me just go into accounting and let's not make a liar out of me here. So let's open our 23 accounting year. Notice 22 doesn't exist, and folks, open that new year. Okay, so we're going to set up 2023. Yep, we're going to copy our chart of accounts and our budgets. New year's now open. This may be one of those situations where I need to exit out of payroll so the database updates and brings in the new accounting year information in here. Okay, so now let's go to transfer to accounting, and sure enough, there is my January 12th of 2023 pay. My pay accounting year for 23 now exists. I can now transfer that into accounting. Now from here, if you try this and it won't let you transfer, the final other reason here why this may not be, might not transfer in is maybe we've got employees that are not properly set up. Okay, you go down the list, you've got to make sure that every one of these lines here has the appropriate debit or credit account. All right, it will show you. And if that's wrong, or if that's not set up, you can certainly click here, notice, and you can choose the accounts. But what I recommend simply is you close out, you go back to the employee, sorry, not calculate payroll, sorry folks, pay employees contractors, and you find the employee in question, you go to their pay hours and rates, or their allowances, or their tax tab, and we notice everything is linked for the employees right here at their employee file. Checking account, employee expense account, employer's FICA Medicare expense account, allowances. Over here, minister's auto allowance, housing allowance. All right, deductions. This is where you can choose either expenses or liabilities. On the tax tab, we've got our federal 941 tax liability. Everything is linked right here. Okay, so once you link this, then you'll close, go back to transfer to accounting. The software will now read those accounts, populate them, and we can complete the transfer. Okay, so we're going to click transfer. It says, are you sure you want to transfer payroll for January 2nd, 12th into the accounting? Yep. And it's asking me, do I want to print my accounting transfer audit report? Okay. Well, let me make sure there. Okay, so finally, this is the very last thing before I look over and see what we got for questions here. If all else fails, folks, if you can't find any of those reasons as to why that is not transferred, probably what I would recommend is let's just void the payroll, recalculate it, insert the same check numbers. No need to reprint checks unless they were bad, and just see if we can get it to transfer into accounting. You may always do that. Okay? All right. Yeah, so one of the things that I was asked to cover is please cover that people need to open their 2023 year in order to transfer into accounting. Folks, that's probably the second most common reason why payroll has not transferred into accounting. Again, you must remember accounting, you can work between the two different accounting years for as long as you need or want. You do not need to be finished with 22 in order to open and work in 23. You may update the new year beginning balances as often and as many times as you need or want. Okay? All right. We did allot an hour for this event, folks. We knew it was going to be kind of lengthy, and I wanted to make sure we covered this with a fair amount of detail. Looks like Rachel's indicating we're getting a whole lot of questions on this. Looks like they've done a pretty good job of answering those here. I guess I would, one thing I would say, folks, about this is for you is, be patient with yourself, while you're working with this. Like I said, if you're paying attention, slow down, look at the screens, see what they do. We've combined some screens in some cases. We've added some other screens in other places. But if you just take your time with it, it'll begin to make more intuitive sense to you. I've worked with the old software, like I said, for 20 years, and it's taken me a couple weeks to get used to it, but I virtually know the process as well as I did in the old payroll software. It's making sense to me now, and why we made the choices that we did. We got a check designer function in there under print checks. You can amend or edit your, does it change the layout or design of your EFT pay stubs? Okay. You've got some functionality in here that we simply did not have before. Okay. All right. I don't want to. All right. So one of the questions, and I've seen this now just down here at the bottom, that I'm wanting to address simply because this is one that I've gotten over the course of the past 2 or 3 weeks, is payroll. The old payroll had check layouts, did not have check layouts that could be brought over into the new payroll, folks. There was no check designer in the old payroll. There is now. Okay? So this is again going back to that very first original thing that I sort of talked about early on, which is you might have to go in and do some amending initially. The conversion, and it's not bringing in your checks layouts from accounting either. The reason being is because there's different information that's needed or wanted or on the check stubs in accounting versus the sub reports that are needed on the payroll checks. So again, you might have to go in and amend that check layout just a little bit initially until you get it the way you're wanting. But that's what the check designer's for. Okay. Again, folks, one of the great things about this is you've got one program to back up now, not two. You've got one software program to update, not two. Okay. For folks who are wanting to ask questions about printing W-2s and 1099 forms, we're not going to be covering that today. We have webinar events scheduled in the rest of the month. Next Tuesday is 1099 generation. The Tuesday after that is W-2 production. Okay. So we're not going to be covering that event today. All right. Again, please, reach out to us. We just want to forewarn you that if it may take us a couple days for us to get back to you, again, install the SR1 as it may fix problems that we are already aware of, that you're not aware of or unaware of. Again, folks, we've tried our best to kind of build in some new things in here, like we've built in some basic allowances and deductions, but there may be others that you have to add. You may need to contact or go to the IRS website for information on that. You may need to contact a qualified tax person about it, but you can always amend or add or edit anything you wish in this, okay? Again, I'm seeing a question coming in here. We still are only able to produce EFT files for employees, not contractors. As far as I'm aware, I believe we still cannot, I don't think we can produce an EFT file for bonus payments. Still checks are required for that. SR2, for those that are on the web, SR1 will be uploaded and installed into the cloud for you automatically. You'll simply open it. The opening screen will show 24.22.1. If you like this one right here, you'll know that the patch has been installed. Okay. Yes, folks, we're going to be getting back to our webinars here, regular, normal, updating of all the payroll webinars, talking about things like how to work with the new direct deposit in there. Getting the direct, it's virtually the same, folks. It's just where and how it's set up, but it produces the same type of file. You can use the link in the email, folks, of the original email for 24.22.0 to access the SR1. It is the only one that's out on our website right now. Or Rachel will be sending an email out to folks here later this afternoon with the link to that. Yeah, again, folks, I don't have a firm release. Rachel is doing everything she can to get that email out, advising folks about SR1 as quickly as humanly possible, okay? All right. I don't want to leave here before I'm kind of running out of things to talk about myself here. I'm just kind of looking, trying to see the questions that we're seeing popping in here and seeing if there's something here I can reply to. Deborah, I received an exception error message to please contact support for value column hours in table. Yeah, Deborah, that's an individual data question. Unfortunately, we're going to have to reach out to you. We're going to have to speak with you on the phone about that. I'm really hoping we're going to be able to get that addressed or there. Yeah, let them know when you call in support that's probably something we can fix fairly easily for you. When I've left off something with allowances, they don't seem to be calculating on the pastor's check. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Allowances should be, again, install the SR1, but you want to make sure, folks, again, and this is one of the things that I was mentioning before was that, when you go in here, this is what's similar to payroll versus different. Again, we've got our warning. It's not going to process. It will process. Browse payments right here allows you to see everything that you saw under Calculate Payroll 3. Gross pay, total tax deductions, total other deductions, total allowances, net pay. The taxes can be edited here, okay? The other amounts, gross pay amounts, allowance amounts can all be edited at the previous window, okay? I think we're going to try to get this video, folks. We're getting asked about when will the video be available. It'll be out on the website probably later today, I think. Okay, so again, folks, we're seeing, again, anything to do with tax reports, tax reporting, whether it's W-2s, 941, there's a video out on the Resource Center page that I did on the, it is, again, folks, this is being recorded. It will be out on the website here shortly, sometime later today. And Church Windows will be updated. Church Windows Web will be updated by the end of the weekend. That's when I'm being shown. Okay, Check Designer. I'm being asked to show the Check Designer. All right, so there's ways you can access this, folks. You don't have to have checks waiting in the print queue. If I go to print checks and I do reprint check stubs, that's what's going to allow me in. If I have no checks waiting to print, it's going to pop up and say, hey, you've got no checks waiting to print. Well, I've clearly got some. But I can do it here under the reprint check stubs too. Okay, so I choose the date that I'm wanting to print them for. I go to next. Even if I go here and next, right here, Check Designer. So I've got my two default layouts. I've got check stub or default payroll check. Check stub is check at the top, stub in the middle and the bottom. Most folks use stub check stub, which is the default. So if I use the default and go to Check Designer, it opens up our check report designer, very much like the ones we have in membership, donations, and accounting, with the check in the middle. The reports on the top and the bottom allows us to manipulate this any way we wish. If I were to say change something here, like, move my dates and amounts around or something, and it prompts me to, if I change something per my layout, I've got the preview down here. I've done this with a lot of folks. So it says it's not possible to show. We're not worried about that. We click OK. Here's a sample check. I print that to plain paper in the upper left. I overlay it over one of my checks. I hold it up to the light. I overlay it. I go, oh, I'm close, but I'm not quite there yet. I toggle back to my designer tab in the bottom left. I manipulate it further. I toggle back to the preview tab, print it to plain paper. This is the old-fashioned way of doing alignments, folks. When we've got documents that are not necessarily aligning correctly, I print it to plain paper, overlay it, toggle back and forth between the designer and the preview tabs. Only when it is aligning correctly with the sample check there, I close out. I am now required to give it a new name, my payroll checks, okay? You cannot overwrite the default. You'll always have that to go back to. So now I click yes. It now chooses my check layout that I've created here. Should be there every time. Make sure to pay attention to it. Then choose it. But it's there for you to use from that point forward. I highlight it. I go to print checks. There's my new layout. I can print it, however, plain paper if it's a reprint, or if it's a real check, I can print it to my check stock. Okay. Let's see. Data setup for locals taxes. Yes, I did show that. Again, just by way of a friendly reminder, data setup, local tax, click the tax that you're needing to fix. You may need to fix all of them. Click edit right there. Sorry, let me go do that slower. Right here between delete and add, edit. And that brings that up over here, and under here where it says local, or sorry, tax is what's empty. And you'll see everything for your state. Everything from, this is all folks brought in from Aatrix. So this is all Aatrix doing in anticipation of your being able to help and get their documents produced from them. We'll talk more about Aatrix next week. Okay? And then simply once you've chosen the appropriate local tax, click next and then finish. Okay? Good. Let's see here. I'm kind of trying to toggle back and forth folks here. All right. Well, I think hope we've done a good job here on this today, folks. Hope you've learned some new information. We hope you found this event helpful. Again, we really do apologize for the delay in support response. This is not like us, but we've had some stuff occur here that was unexpected and unanticipated. Please install the SR1 as quickly as possible in wherever you are in the process. Our technicians, myself included, will continue to try to reach out to you and assist. And I will go ahead and end the event or webinar event for everybody. Let me see if there's something else I'm seeing here that I gotta ask here, gotta cover. Doesn't look like it. Play, folks, explore. If, well, in SR1, if you can break it, we need to know how you did it, all right? And I'm gonna go ahead and end the event for everyone here, all right? And again, be patient with yourself, be patient with us, please. We're doing the best we can. And I do hope that we will see everyone at another future Church Windows webinar event. Okay? All right. Thank you all. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.